Welcome back to On the Light and to what is now our 5th season. I'm your host, Susan Johnson. My guest today is Jaki Nett. Jaki is one of the recipients of the Lighting the Way Award presented by IYNAUS in recognition of her decades of dedication to the study, practice, and teaching of Iyengar Yoga. Jaki received this honor at the recent IYNAUS Convention in Philadelphia. In this conversation, Jaki reflects on nearly 4 decades of study in Pune, her deep and enduring relationship with Geeta Iyengar, and the profound influence Geetaji had on her life as a student, teacher, and practitioner. She shares stories of both Guruji and Geetaji that reveal not only their brilliance as teachers, but also their humanity, humor, compassion, and unwavering commitment to the subject of yoga. At its heart, this is a conversation about lineage, how it is received, and how it transforms us, and the responsibility each of us carries to preserve and pass on the teachings with integrity. Please enjoy my conversation with Jaki Nett. Hey, Jaki. Great to see you.
Nice seeing you.
Thank you for meeting me.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited.
First, I want to acknowledge that you just received the Lighting the Way Award when we were at the convention. There it is. Yeah, when we were at the convention there in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Very special moment.
Yes. What I remember is me crying. I mean, it wasn't crying.
Yeah.
On stage. Oh, it wasn't a pretty sight, I'm sure.
Oh,
No,
no.
but it was wonderful. It was wonderful to receive it. I didn't expect I would get that. I didn't.
Yeah.
So it comes in and out. You know, sometimes it's like, and then it's like, really, I got this. It's very interesting. It's at times I feel like I've gotten a PhD. You know, it's that, yeah. So it was. I'm very honored to have received it. Yes.
That's well deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were your thoughts when you were called up onto that stage?
I don't have it. I don't remember any thoughts. Only thing I remember is walking on stage and boo-hoo-hooing it and boo-hoo-hooing it and couldn't stop in the back of my head. I'm going, come on.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I remember at the end when I finally got myself together, I boo-hoo-hooed all the way up on Tay, on Gloria, in the center. And this photographer was saying, take a picture. And I must have given him this face. Like, he went,
Yeah.
and sort of walked away.
So, his introduction was quite long, as I recall. It was like going on and on, and I thought, oh my gosh, who is he? And yeah, that was really special though.
Yeah. I had friends they were saying, who is it? Who is it? And some said, well, when they heard anatomy and the teacher in anatomy, they were saying, I wonder if it's Jaki. I wonder if it's Jaki. So that was, yeah.
Yeah.
She was very excited. Tay was very excited and very nervous herself.
Yeah.
So,
well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
I have a lot of questions I want to ask, but I'm wondering if we start like at the beginning of your yoga journey. What brought you to Iyengar Yoga?
Well, Iyengar Yoga was not a pre-thought. I started studying yoga in LA back in 75. And I worked in Century City and I lived in Santa Monica. And I would have to drive from Santa Monica to Century City, and there was this sign that says Harriman's Yoga. And I would always look at this sign, going and coming. I would always look up at this sign. And I got into a car accident. And at that time, we didn't have to have insurance to prove insurance for your car. So I had enough money to get the other person's car fixed and my car fixed, but couldn't pay my rent.
Mm.
And so one of the ladies I worked with just happened to call, and I was telling her my story. And she said, "Oh, I have a mad apartment. You can come and share with me in my mad apartment." And a mad apartment was when she would get mad at her boyfriend, she would come to and stay in her apartment, which was empty. She had a couch. She had a couch. So I moved in with her, and it was directly across the street from the studio.
Okay.
And so I went to the studio and I took my first class. And that's the start of my yoga journey. And she saw Mr. Iyengar on television. And she came back to class talking about this teacher and light on yoga. And so she showed the book. I went and got the book. And it became a coffee top book, a picture book, just looking at it. But I continued doing yoga. And she was the student of Indra Devi. And Indra Devi, you know, Indra Devi. Indra Devi, there was BKS Iyengar, Indra Devi, Tabi Joyce, and Deskachar. She was the only Western yoga student of Krishnamacharya.
Okay.
And so I ended up going and studying with her in Mexico. And I got my first certificate from her. And then I heard about uh, Kripalu Yoga. I took that. I got certified for that. And that's where I met my husband. I came back and we moved from LA to the Napa Valley. And then I was buying Yoga Journal and I read of Judith Lassiter.
Mm-hmm.
But Judith Lassiter was teaching in San Francisco at the Institute there. So she was out pregnant with her last child, Lizzie, and I got on her waiting list. And I went and when she started teaching again, I went there. My first Iyengar teacher was actually Jean Couch, who was yoga for runners, but she was a certified Iyengar teacher. And so I took classes from her. And then I went to the Institute and I heard about the teachers training. And so I talked them in that I'm great and wonderful and I can do this teachers training. And they let me in. Well, I didn't know anything. I ended up taking the teachers training, and I always describe Iyengar Yoga as Iyengar Yoga. What it does, it takes reality and slaps you in the face because they said, yeah, they want you to have X amount of years. I talked them into it because I think it was they needed money because they were so struggling. So they let me in. And after a year of being slapped around, not physically, but reality, I stopped and I started taking classes with the senior Iyengar teachers, and I never stopped.
Yeah.
And I had some very, very good teachers. Like Judith Lassiter was my first mentor. I had Larry Hatlett, I had Jim Couch, I had all the singers at that time. And so I just didn't stop. And it wasn't that anything I heard about it other than I wanted to study with Judith Lassiter.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. And when I was doing teachers training, I would go and get there early. It was an anatomy class, and we had a fabulous, fabulous teachers training. When we studied anatomy, we would go to Stanford and study the cadavers, and it was fabulous,
Oh,
fabulous teachers. I had a small child, a young child, and my husband would say, "Why do you want to go and take some more classes? You already have two certifications." I was teaching for the Napa College, and I said, "I have to do this. I have to do this." And so I knew that if I got my husband, who was in college, he was a geologist, but in college he was a professional. He was a wrestler. I
oh,
said, if he can take his class, he would be sold. And that's what happened. And so from then on, and I'm still living in the Napa Valley. I would drive in 4 or 5 times a week to San Francisco, which was 2.5 hours each way sometimes. But I just couldn't stop once I started. Yeah. So not very romantic, but that's how it happened.
yeah. I think that is how it happens for a lot of us. We
Yeah,
start learning the subject and the method, and we just want to continue to learn more and more.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So then eventually you went on and studied in Pune.
yeah. I studied in Pune. The first time I was in Pune was in 1986.
Mhm.
And during that time, they would have conventions of 3 weeks intensive, so different places, different countries, and different in America, different sections of the country. So the West Coast, I went with the West Coast, and it was 30 of us, and it was quite intense because I had this since I was a neophyte. I had seen Mr. Iyengar, but I really, didn't know it. And then I had been around gurus. So the approach to that I had to the guru was a little different than it was in India. So it was a little difficult for me. But I studied with him, and that's when I met Geeta, and that's where I met Prashant. Was in 86,
Mhm.
1986. Mm.
Okay. And I know that you speak very highly of Geeta. You consider her to be,
My guru.
yeah. Can you
Yeah.
describe what made that relationship?
How it evolved. The first time I went there in 86, I remember being in a class. I don't exactly remember what brought it up, but it was two things that happened, not in the same day, but within that 3 weeks we were there. But the first one, I remember asking a question. Mr. Iyengar was talking, explaining something, and I didn't understand what he was saying because he was speaking fast. I didn't understand his pronunciations. And I remember holding my hand up and saying, "Excuse me, I don't understand." Well, whatever happened from there, I ended up in tears.
Oh,
I was sobbing. I was sobbing. And Geeta came over, and I was running around. We had spaces. We were assigned places. And I was like this. And she came, I remember her take me by the shoulders and walking me over to my place. And that was the first time I felt sort of protected. And I'm not using the word protected, it's not in a negative way, but there was this connection.
mhm.
And she walked me over, and went up into a headstand. They were doing headstands. And I remember in the headstand and still crying and and Mr. Iyengar, remember him going, looking at me like, what is wrong with this girl? So, and she sort of, because she was the main teacher. He was there, but she was the main teacher. And then the next time, in this time, we were doing pranayama. And I had been in at Kripalu Yoga for 7 weeks. And at that time, it was not a true ashram, it was an ashram where the men and the women were separate. And the part of the systems that we would do, they would do a lot of dancing and then do a lot of Kapalabhati. And when I would do that, I was told later on by Iyengar teacher Kofi that my system wasn't ready for the extreme pranayama. And what would happen, I would feel this energy shoot up my spine and it would lock me and throw me backwards. And so we were doing pranayama and all of a sudden I heard this scream and I ended up opening my eyes and it was me.
Oh.
And I was convulsing on the floor. And Geeta came up and pinned me down and held me down until it stopped. And then she put me against the wall, and I had to sit against the wall with my eyes open. And then she watched over me. And that was, I think, the start of the relationship of her watching over me. And I went practically every year, sometimes twice a year. And it got so I would go. Sometimes it was like it really put our marriage on the line. Because I would go. I said, I'm going, and my husband, and there's my son, and I'm going because I had to go. And during that time, each time I would go, I would ask her for audience. I just had to sit and talk to her. She and I were the same age. And I was never part of the business. Like I didn't go there and talk to her about what was going on in business. I would go there and she would sit and I'd sit and sort of look at her and we would talk. And I think she just felt sorry for me. And we would talk and we ended up same age, having the same issues of aging. She did save my marriage though. Because I was telling her I was very upset at my husband, and I took off to India to decide what I wanted to do. And she knew my husband. And right before I was time to leave, I had this audience before I was going to the airport, and she asked me, "How is his name?" And I said, "Well, excuse me, Geeta, for the words I'm going to use." And I just let it rip. And I do my best not to use curse words, anything like that. But it just came out. And she sort of sat there and she looked and and I said, "Well, thank you. And I have to go and I'll see you next year." And she says, "Come back with your husband." And I went,
You didn't want to hear that.
I knew if I didn't come back with him, she wouldn't have said anything. But what it did for me, she was my teacher. Yeah. She was my guru. What it did for me is gave me pause. I had to step back and listen to her, because this is what she just said: come back with your husband. That's all she said. She listened to me and she listened to all the venom that came out of my mouth. And she just looked, she didn't give any value judgment on it. She just says, come back with your husband. And I had to stop and say, she gave, for her saying that, I had to think. I thought. It didn't go away, but to this day, and when he went to India, he talked to her too. And I don't know what they said. It was them.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that brought us in. I think she thought I was just a little different because I didn't talk to her about, we did talk about yoga, but not that much. Like I was invited at one time, I was invited to teach in China. It never came to fruition, but it was for Ashtanga studio.
Oh.
And they asked me if I would teach. And I said, well, sure, I will talk to my teacher, to Geeta. And at the same time, in China, I was also being invited to to teach at the Playboy Club. They wanted to organize. They were building a Playboy, organizing it, and I was a trainer. I was a bunny. I trained the bunnies and so I said, well, I have to tell Geeta. She has to know. So I went and talked to her first about the teaching there, and she said, well, I trust that no matter where you teach, you'll teach Iyengar Yoga. And I said, of course, and I said, and I want to also tell you that um, I have been invited to teach, to train the bunnies. And I said, hey, do you know what a Playboy bunny is? And she says, no. And they used to think, Mr. Iyengar, they thought I was a photographer and they thought I was a dancer. The photographer because I had always had a nice camera, and a dancer because my body at that time looked like a dancer.
Mhm.
So she says no. And so I showed her a picture of me and she said, oh, you're a dancer. And I said, yes, and closed it and closed it. So in that conversation, and we had other conversations about teaching, and I promised her in our later years, she was that wherever I teach, I would be representing her and Iyengar Yoga to the best of my ability. And so our time together was very organic. It wasn't busy business. Once she said to me as we were aging and we were talking about menopause and the body, how the body changed. And when I met Geeta, she could do all these very exotic poses, very beautiful poses. And as she aged and as her body started breaking down in a sense and limiting, she said, and she looked at me, she said, we have to show how we can age doing Iyengar Yoga.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and I said, well, I'm very flamboyant. She said, yes, I know. I'm known for I don't have that much jewelry on now. I'm getting it. I have to get it evaluated. So when I travel, but I'm known for that. And she loved my jewelry. I remember the first time she ever spoke to me, she walked up to me and my hair, gets these waves. She walked up and she said, how do you do that with your hair? I said, oh. So she was very human with me in that way.
Huh?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Did she say anything about training the bunnies? Did she have an
No,
opinion?
she
She just,
didn't know what they were, and I didn't go into
oh,
explaining it.
I see.
I wanted it just in case it happened. And the Ashtanga people, when they found out that I would work at a bunny as a trainer
Mhm.
at the club in China, they dropped me.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and then the Chinese government didn't let the club go through. So,
Uh-huh.
but she never asked. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's interesting. Um, well, still on the topic of Geeta and her being your guru, um, was there a particular teaching? Because you talk about how you talked a lot about life. Was there something that she taught on the subject of yoga that really helped in your understanding of what yoga is?
It was so complete. It wasn't anything that was like the thunderbolt.
Yeah.
It was never the thunderbolt.
Mhm.
How, one of the things I do remember, and I do pass on sometimes, people have to understand that Geeta and Mr. Iyengar, but since we're talking about Geeta, came from a different culture than we, you
Yes.
know. And so the Westerners, we would go over with our mindset as a Westerner, but hers was a different culture.
Mhm.
And also her lineage, she was a matriarch lineage in the sense that the mother uh, took responsibility of passing on the history and the rituals onto the family. And
Mhm.
her mother died, and she was the oldest daughter.
Mhm.
And so she took over that teaching. She taught the classes, she taught the therapeutics, she took care of the family history. She took care of Mr. Iyengar, although he was the guru.
Mhm.
She was the foundation. She kept it going. Prashant did his thing. He taught, but it was Gita.
Mhm.
And her voice would go up and people would, her voice would go up and get very strong. And sometimes it would seem like she was very angry. And one day when the, the population, the students started getting more students coming, they would, to make room, they would say, somebody get on stage. And it wasn't get on stage because you can do the pose, is get on stage to make to make space, use this space. And so because of the way I was, people would say, Jackie, get on stage. And I would get on stage. And one day I was on stage and she was teaching and she was just having a hard time and her voice was going up and she was stomping around. And there were a lot of people out there that I knew from the San Francisco area. Because when we start, you get a rhythm of
Mhm.
going at a certain time. And so usually November, December was the time that a lot of the San Francisco people went, and senior teachers from all over the world would come in December. And I'm sitting there, and Geeta is giving instructions, and her instructions was fabulous, very clear. She was giving instructions, and people that I knew are said just like she's not saying anything. Nothing is changing. Nothing is trying. It's like I know this, and I did say to her, I said, I see why your voice go up. I
Mhm.
said, I see. I said, I wanted to get a stick and go out and get somebody because you're putting all of this out. And it's like they're not listening. I know how to do this.
Mhm.
And that was very telling to me because it showed me how much she had to put up with to
Mhm.
handle all of these people. And it was very hard on her. It was very interesting. She was in starting menopause during the time Prashant had his injury, accident. And she stopped practicing, and I could see her body just freezing and starting to deteriorate.
Oh.
I was in Poland teaching at the end of a class in Poland, and we were sitting around teaching and eating, and most of the students there were very young students, young, and as in most yoga classes, it's female.
Mhm.
And so we were sitting around eating, and they always ask about my age. And then they started talking about Geeta. And they said, "Why does she look that way? She does yoga. Why does she look that way?" And I said, "If you had the responsibility that this woman has, you
Mhm.
wouldn't look, you wouldn't look the way you think you should look." She had amazing responsibility. And to the point that sometimes she just couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't do it, but she would drag herself out. And it was, in fact, because of my mouth, I said to her, "I don't know if I believe in reincarnation, but I'm going to hedge my bet. I'm going to live my life for
Mhm.
reincarnation. But I don't, I pray I don't come back as an Indian woman,
Mm.
because the responsibility that I see she took and she lived up to was tremendous, was tremendous.
Well, that's good. That's really good insight on her and her life, the responsibility that she held.
Hmm. She did.
Mm.
You would see Geeta. You would see Geeta sometimes she would be just her mouth and she would just be good.
Yeah.
But you look at her eyes.
Mhm.
When her eyes, she could be but her eyes were like these big black pools, and they would just shine.
Yeah.
They would just, they would just shine. And I could tell that, she was doing her duty to teach. She was doing the intensity of teaching,
Yeah.
but you could see the warmth and the softness and the caring in her eyes.
Mhm.
Sometimes they can get sharp, but most of the time, for me, meaning me looking at her, it was that softness. They were like black pools. They were just very soft and watery. At the same time, there can be intensity in her teaching.
Do you have any memories that you want to share about Guruji, about BKS Iyengar?
Yeah.
Any particular story?
Mr. Iyengar was very generous with me.
Mm.
He was very generous. He could be intense. Um, I say the first 15 years of our relationship, when I would walk into the practice hall, he would call me over and, "How are you doing?" And I'm a greedy person. I figure I'm coming this far, I'm gonna get as much as I could. So I would find things to talk about, saying this hurts, this hurts, this hurts. Sometimes I wish I hadn't said anything, but he was very generous with me. And then for the next 15 years, um, I was involved in a conversation that I was not the person that people were asking him about, but he remembered that I was part of it, and I would go there a lot. So for the next 15 years, whenever he would see me, I would still get the attention, but it was on the negative side.
Oh.
Negative. And at the same time, using the word negative, where the first part, it was he would bring me over. I had my own assistant. I had to be by him there. The next time, the next 15 years, I would stay out of his way, and he would end one day, one time. I had hurt my arm in a car accident. And this was during the time that I was on his poo-poo list, as I call it. So I have this hurt arm. I'm hiding from him. There's posts. I would come in and I would hide from him over on this side of the room because he had his own place where have you been to Pune? Yeah. So over by the prop entrance, that's where he was at that particular time. He was doing this. So I was over by the door here. And one day he stood up and he said, everybody switch places exactly where you are. Which put me right in front of him. Mr. Iyengar never have hit me. Never has hit me. But anybody close to me was going to get smacked. At me. the, the next person. The next person. It was so and it got so for closer to the going into the next 15 years, I said, I have to, whatever it is that he remembered, it wasn't true, but he remembered it. Whatever it is he put me to. And I told my husband, I said, I have to go and complete this circle with him. So I had Pondu to make me an appointment.
Okay.
And Mr. Iyengar was sitting on his front porch in his chair, and it's concrete there. Mm-hmm. And I had this appointment, and I went and I kneeled in front of him, and my knees were just killing me on this concrete. And I told him, I said, you have given me so much. And I said, I need to complete this circle with you. Whatever has happened, I need to complete this circle. You've given me so much. I said, but whatever has happened, I want to apologize. Mm-hmm. And he was looking like this. And I'm on my knees, and he's looking, and I said, well, I know how to bring him in. So I had pictures that I have this book. Geeta gave me written permission that I can take any of her classes that she has recorded and put it in any form of a book, a video, and present it, but it has to be for everyone to see. And so I was doing the pictures of this one and only book. And so I had the pictures because I was going to see Geeta, and I started showing it to him, and and that brought him in. And I remember this one picture. I was doing Virabhadrasana 1, and my back leg doesn't straighten like his in his book because my groins are not open. You have to have very open groins to get that back leg to go straight. And I remember him with this long finger saying, that leg is not straight at all. Mm-hmm. Okay. Every time I do Virabhadrasana 1, I hear that. And then he came in and he came in and he came in and he looked at it, and the conversation went on. And I said, thank you. And I bowed and I left, and he pranamed to me. And from that time on, he was open to me again. He smiled at me again. But again, he gave me so much. He worked with me. I had uterofibroids. Mm-hmm. And I did a book on that. and he got the first draft, which I thought I was through. It was like 12 pages, and the book ended up 200 pages. But he worked with me on that. So he was very, very giving. And even in his intense, um, I learned from it. I learned from it. I cried twice. I cried twice. But after the tears dried up, I got the lesson,
Yeah.
what he was saying. So Mr. Iyengar was a very intense man. And again, he was from a different culture, from a different, he experienced life in a different way. And his intensity could be misunderstood a lot. Because when he decided to put his attention on something, like working with you, it would be intense.
Yeah.
And I remember Manuso saying to me, when you ask him for help, be ready to receive the fire.
Mm.
And that it was very intense at times, but his attention was there. You know, for me as a Westerner, I thought it was a lot of the time, it was not, it could have been approached a different way. But again, I had this man I stayed with for 4 months across the street and from the Institute, and he was the same age as Mr. Iyengar. And he said, you have to understand our culture. You have to understand our culture. You have to understand what we grew up with. Like, one of the things is that in the caste system, even though he was a Brahmin, he was still poor. He was a poor Brahmin. But any level person that think they are above you, they can hit you. You know, they can hit you. I mean, I've seen people on the street come up, cabbies or rickshaw drivers, hitting someone on the street because for some reason. So it's a different culture. And what really impressed me about Mr. Iyengar, and I don't know why just this one, there's a picture of him with Pope Paul. Pope Paul. And Pope Paul asked to meet him. I'm going, the Pope asked to meet him. I mean, to me, that's like, what? The Pope asked to meet him. And this man came from below dirt to Pope Paul asking to meet him. He's a self-made man. You know, and to me, that was just very impressive. More Pope Paul. So I spent, again, I was very blessed to have him give me attention. There was a young man, the last time that I I cried twice. I was in pranayam and I was trying to avoid him again. And the place was jammed. And I had my sticky mat and my blanket, and I felt like Lioness and Peanuts walking around with your blanket. And I'm trying to find a place away from his eyes. I guess, Jackie, someone called me, Jackie, here's a place. And it's like, and I sat down and he was just, could see me. And I wasn't erect. And he sent Stephanie over to adjust me. And I'm like, and he wasn't satisfied. And he sent Stephanie back over to adjust me. And then he said, leave her alone, leave her alone. She just wants attention, leave her alone. And everybody is happy that it's not them, but
Yeah.
wonder who it is. And, they're like looking around, look, trying to see with the Jalandhar Banda with your eyes. And I'm sitting there like that. And as we walked out of class, you can see people looking at me with these eyes like, oh, I feel so sorry for you, but I'm so happy it wasn't me. And this young man came up and he said, I've been coming here every year. And he was going there before I was, every year, twice a month, December and January. And he said he has never once said anything to me. So when I say it's a negative attention, positive attention,
Yeah.
you still got attention. It's just how you handle it. And of course, you want to say you're great and wonderful all the time, which he never said to me.
Yeah.
He never said that to me. No matter what, he could always find something to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But, I got the attention. And for me, I say I was protected. I was by Geeta and by Mr. Iyengar.
Mm-hmm.
And not being racist, if you want to say that. For years, I was the only Black person there. And maybe I was different because I was always sort of flamboyant. I could not wear the t-shirts because my physical body, I sweat. I couldn't wear the t-shirts. But they always accepted me.
Yeah.
They always accepted me. And I feel I was protected because it could get a little catty.
Oh, sure.
Could get a little catty. And
how did you deal with that?
How did I deal with it? My husband even asked me that. My husband is white. Asked me that. He said, how can you put up with that? And I said, no, I grew up under segregation. I grew up in Mississippi South, in the South in Mississippi. And my family, my dad was a doctor. My mother was a teacher. My grandparents had land. They were called landed rich. And we were taught that you can't let anyone stop you. And I said, I came to learn this.
Yeah.
I came to learn this. I'm not going to let that get in my way. Plus, I have no problems of getting you out of my face. My husband say I can be intimidating, and I'm sure I can be, because I pride myself as you don't cross me. I've told people, say, you don't want to go there with me because I will win.
Yeah.
So I see it, and I have felt it, but not to the point that me stopping because of your opinion. No. And so, yeah. And I have talked to Geeta about it. I have talked to her about it. And she listened. She didn't have much of an opinion, but she listened. And it's nice to see that we have more people of color still now coming into the system. I would love to. I taught in South Africa in 2006.
Okay.
I taught, it was the 10th year of the ending of apartheid.
Mhm.
And that was quite nice. I would love to teach in Africa again because I hear that there are more Africans, not Afrikaners. The Afrikaners, when I was teaching, it was all Afrikaners, one colored and one Indian, but the rest was Afrikaners. And I would like to teach Africans in some of the places, but I can't just take my suitcase, knock on the door, and say, I'm here. I'm here to teach. I'm here to teach. But I would like that. I prize myself with
Yeah, that's
to
super.
say to say I am and I have been the highest certified Black female Iyengar teacher in the world.
Yes.
And now I have my plaque. So, in one of the things that when I teach, and especially I teach mostly in Europe, um, not mostly, but when I travel after COVID, all the teaching has changed. Studios closed, people just retired and everything. But when we were talking about aging and teaching, I mean, she had gotten so that she could barely walk. I'm 82.
Okay.
And one of the things people ask me about is me teaching and at that age. And my promise to her in our conversation, and when she says we have to show that how we can age gracefully in Iyengar Yoga, I feel that I'm doing that. And then I am flamboyant. I am. I am. Uh, I love gold. I love long fingernails, naturally long fingernails. The way I dress, the way I dress, when I go to Pune, I wear the t-shirts like so. But to be able to say that the way I am, 99.9%, maybe not that high, is practicing yoga.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I do it the way I do it,
Yeah.
however that might be. And when I practice, when Geeta died, I was in Germany. And my husband called me. He woke me up, but I was getting ready to go to teach. So I had to get up, get dressed, and go in to teach. And I told them that she had died and I had to teach. I couldn't break down but I stopped practicing. I had no interest.
Mm.
I had no interest in practicing. I knew how to teach because I'd been teaching so long. And when I started practicing again, I had lost a lot of my abilities here.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm building it up to the best of my ability, but I can't do a lot of things that I used to could do, where people want me to run and get a camera, that type. And I just remembered this from this story. And you asked the question, what is something that was profound?
Mhm.
The last time I saw Geeta, and I have a picture of her, it's not a very clear picture, but she was on a walker.
Mhm.
She was walking in. She had glasses that was bottle thick on.
Mhm.
She had fallen and lost a tooth.
Um,
She had a couple of her toes amputated. I mean, she walked in, and when she got on stage, she taught. It was amazing. It was totally amazing. And I wasn't at the convention that she died,
mhm.
but what they talked about was that it was like an urgency, like she was teaching from the depths. And that was very profound for me because to see her and to know her body and to know how she suffered. Because one time she got out of bed to talk to me and she was scratching and scratching and scratching and scratching. And she said, I can't see, I can't read. Her body was in pain. And to see her teach, it was unbelievable. That was I would say, looking back in my mind's eye, that was one of the most profound things is to see this body and remember this body that used to do all these poses and still from that knowledge, it was in her, it had become part of her DNA. She could teach, she could see, it was amazing. So when I practice now, there's times, and my husband would say, it feels as though Geeta is with you. Things are coming up, are bubbling up. I was never one that can take notes because I have dyslexia.
Oh, okay.
And I'm struggling to spell, and I missed the whole paragraph because I'm stuck on this word.
Yes.
So I listen. And what
Mhm.
I remember, I remember. What I don't remember, I don't remember. That's what. But when they were there and I would go to India, I didn't have to think about it because they're going to give me this information. They're going to feed it into my body. Now that they're not there, it's like it's bubbling up. It's like it was put in there, and now it's coming in and it's coming out in a different way. My teaching has changed in a different way because I don't have them there. They're there.
Mm-hmm.
They're there from what has been implanted. And that's very it's very warm.
Yeah.
It's very warm. And I think I promised her, like I said, I promised her that I would represent Iyengar Yoga and Geeta
Mhm.
to the best of my ability. And that's what I tried to do. One of the things that we were talking about, um, she was trying to gather up and put down assessment. Assessment has changed. And we were talking about teaching. And I said, Iyengar Yoga around the world doesn't have a good reputation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does, but it doesn't because of some of the teachers are mean.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, yes, I know. Yes, I know. And I said, I will never pass that one on.
Good.
Not that I can't be intense,
Yeah.
but not mean. And so when I teach with the intensity, but not with meanness.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that was my promise to her.
That's a good promise to keep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Mm. So did you study with her?
Yeah, so I went to Pune twice in 2006 and 2009, and then
Mhm.
I went to Belur last January to study with Prashant.
Mm.
And then I am going back next Wednesday. I leave for Pune. And
To study with
well,
to Prashant, I mean to Balur,
no, I'm going to Pune.
Pune. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And
Abby is doing an amazing job.
yes, she is.
Abby, she was given a very heavy load.
Oh, she was.
I
Yeah.
mean, she's doing a very good job. Um, I'm going in January to study to be in Pune, and yeah, yeah, yeah. You're certified, yes.
Yes, I am. I'm level one. I've been level one for a
Uh-huh.
long time. So I'm starting to say to myself, okay, it's time. I gotta.
Yeah, yeah. So where are you?
I live in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Ah, the dreaded question. Did you ever hear Geeta says, who's your teacher?
Never
Did
asked me that. She
she
never
never
asked me that. No.
the
But
who's your teacher?
I will say, my teacher was Kristen Shearhart and Lisa Verker.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
One time, well, it was the first time when I went in 2006, they said, be sure to say hello to Geetaji from us and give her our love. And so I told them I would say that. And, of course, I was fearful to approach her. And,
Yeah.
but I just got up. I said, all right, I'm going to do this. And I went and I told them, I said, Geeta, my teachers back home, Kristen and Lee, want me to send their love. And she just lit up.
Smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Yes.
God for them and thank God for me that I was like,
Is Kristen and Lee still teaching?
they're not teaching anymore. No.
No.
They've
Uh-huh.
retired. They gave their studio to some teachers here, and so that's still going in Minneapolis.
Uh-huh.
I think they're just enjoying their life and
Uh-huh.
part-time in Mexico and part-time in northern Minnesota.
Uh-huh. 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 Yeah,
Yeah.
I know them. I know of them, but I never, I mean, and I've interacted with them,
Sure.
but I don't know them. Yeah, 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 yeah. I know they were senior teachers and they were around a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah. But the dude, who's your teacher, was a big do I she finally explained because I think she saw how it panicked people. Like, do I say their name or they're going to get in trouble? That's all the time you think of
Yeah.
that. And she says, what I'm asking for is I can tell how long it's been, your teacher has been here because of what you do, because they evolved.
Uh-huh.
They evolved. And
Yeah.
so new things came out. And if you're doing some of the older things, then she said, I just want to know,
Yeah.
and so that sort of, okay, okay. Okay.
Probably wasn't always a bad thing. She probably just,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of it wasn't a bad thing. Once my husband was there and he was working in the therapeutics, and Gita was telling him to get him to tell this person to do uh uh oh, I can't remember what it was. And he was nervous and he didn't get it right. And he was nervous and she stormed out. And I was coming in the studio into the building when she was coming out. She looked at me and she says, I am so angry at your husband. I am so angry. I said, this is not the way. This is not the way. And I said, oh, I bet you are. But her eyes were just dancing around. This is not the way. I told him, this is not the way. He came out like this. shaking. It was so funny. She was laughing, but it was so funny. Yes.
They all have a great laugh and a great
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really, really blessed to have experienced that timing.
Yes.
It's
Oh, yes.
yeah, because it's definitely was an experience.
Mm.
Um, and it still is, but it's different. It's
Yeah.
different. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing to close on then. As I'm also, I have this podcast. I am the chair of continuing education for INAUS.
Hmm.
Um, One of the things in my volunteerism for INAUS that I hope to accomplish and that I hope to bring some positive change is, I think a lot about how do we carry forward this tradition. Now that Guruji's passed and Geetaji has passed, how do we do that? Like, how do we teach the new teachers coming up, and how do we present this subject in a way that it will be preserved?
For me, I think it naturally is going to change because they're not there. I love the old way of training. I'm not of the assessment. I haven't done the new assessment, but I'm not too fond of it, uh, just from what I know. But what I do, I tell students, another thing I told Geeta is that I don't put limits on who can come to my class.
Mhm.
Because she was saying, if you have a workshop and you have to be certified, you have to be able to do a headstand, you have to be able to do this, and you have to be able to do that. She said, who are you getting in? Who are you teaching? There's nothing is going to grow because it's there.
Yes.
So you have to be open
Mhm.
to bring new people in.
Yes.
You have to be open to if someone comes in and say, well, I've done Ashtanga yoga and I want to, sit there and go poo-poo and put
Right.
them down. So there has to be an openness.
Yeah.
But we also have to maintain our 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 technique. My words are not coming fast. Our technique. What I do is I tell students who are starting, that I'm not a mentor. I don't take that responsibility, that label,
Mhm.
but I will work with you to the best of my ability. I will give you to the best of my ability.
Mhm.
But I tell people, study Geeta's book.
Mhm.
Mr. Iyengar's Light on Yoga is the Bible for Iyengar Yoga.
Mhm.
But you look at his instruction: step your feet apart, turn the right leg off under fold forward and bang your head on your shins.
Mhm.
Parsvottanasana.
Mhm.
Look at Geeta's.
Yeah.
Geeta's book, she teaches the asana. She will also say, if you can't do this, if
Mhm.
you can't,
Yeah.
then do this. So I think we have to stay within the confines of how to do the asana and not just be freer in your instructions.
Huh.
I think you,
Withhold the integrity of the
with
subject.
all the integrity, and even though there is, mm, one of the things, there's the reason I liked the teachers training.
Mhm.
And I was part of the teachers training in San Francisco. So you had 8 teachers.
Mhm.
All are Iyengar training level 3. but we each had a different personality. And the weakness in one can be shored up by the other teachers. So you got more of in your training how to look from the same eyes, from the same direction, but look at this and look at this and look at this. With the mentorship, where you're with this basically one teacher, even though you learn, you're passing on whatever their weakness is, whatever their strengths is, whatever, and it doesn't give it as much solidity, strength that I think, and this is my soapbox. So I'm standing on my soapbox. I think that the teaching is actually weaker.
Yes. Yeah.
And things are definitely going to change. You go to Pune. I remember going to Pune where the bathrooms stink, the people, everything was, you go there now, it's organized. The assistants are nice, it's warm, it's clean. It changed for the better. So there is change doesn't mean that it's not for the best, but I see it as a weakness. But that's life. How you can do it, how you can bring it back, I don't think you can. A lot of the teachers, like my teachers, are not teaching anymore. What I've learned, I'm now the seniors. I was at Raya, was teaching down in LA, and I went down there, and he would say, and if you 50, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then he would stop. And we were having dinner, and people have been talking. They're 65, they're 75, I'm 82. I said, not saying 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, you're leaving out a big population by just stopping there. And so from then on, he would say, and up to 100. So I think the best, I try to, and there are people who've been around. There's just a difference in the teaching and what's passed on, and now it's just different. It's not as I don't want to say stiff and not confined, but sometimes it's too juicy loosey.
Yeah.
And what do? You're on the board. You have to come up. And then, it's just accepting what is,
Well, I feel like I want the integrity of the subject to be strong. I don't want the loosey-goosey, like you say. But I do want the welcoming and the warmness and the friendliness and compassion. I want to bring in the younger generations. It was an honor to have you here.
It was an honor for you to ask me. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to this conversation with Jaki Nett. One of the many things that stayed with me from this discussion was Geetaji's simple yet profound statement. We have to show how we can age doing Iyengar Yoga. Jaki's life and teaching are a beautiful expression of that message, reminding us that yoga is not measured by what poses we can do, but by how the practice continues to shape us throughout every stage of life. My hope is that conversations like this help preserve not only the history of our tradition, but also the spirit in which it has been passed from teacher to student across generations. Before I close, I'd like to share a few reflections on the recent IYNAUS Convention. For me, it was an extraordinary experience and one that continues to leave a lasting impression. Recently, I was speaking with a friend about the unique relationships we form through our shared practice of Iyengar Yoga. There is something deeply meaningful about these connections. They are rooted in a common commitment to study, practice, and self-inquiry, and they often grow into friendships that sustain us for years. I left the convention with a tremendous sense of joy and gratitude for this community and for the opportunity to be together in person. I would like to thank Geeta Iyengar for traveling to the United States and for sharing her grandfather's teachings with such clarity, intelligence, and devotion. Her classes were inspiring and deeply enriching. My sincere thanks also goes to Tori Milner and the entire convention committee for the countless hours of planning and service that made the event possible. Special appreciation goes to Catherine Voucher for the remarkable archives exhibit, Kathleen Swanson for creating a vibrant convention marketplace, Joan White and Rohit Kulkarni for producing an outstanding convention magazine, Nicholas Girillis for his steady presence and support throughout the entire event, and Skylar Christensen for her work in promoting the convention and helping bring our community together. Of course, I can't forget a heartfelt thank you to everyone who participated in the variety show. It was a joyful reminder that our community is not only dedicated to hard working, but also creative, talent, and fun. I know there were many others whose contributions made this convention such a success, and while I cannot name everyone individually, please know how deeply your efforts are appreciated. If you enjoy On the Light, please consider liking, sharing, or subscribing. And if you're able, a small monthly donation helps support the continued production of this podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this growing community. Namaskar.